Hi, I'm Colleen Kruger. I'm a music industry professional with over 10 years experience in production, management, and music curation. As an independent contractor through my career, I've noticed a knowledge gap in navigating available health and wealth options. With so many options available, it can feel overwhelming and not knowing where to start. Unlike corporate culture, where support's ingrained and much of that process is taken care of internally, contract workers are often left on their own figuring things out. So, in collaboration with Elephant Artist Relief, I'm excited to be hosting a short series of talks. I'm going to invite professionals from insurance, tax, financial planning. We're also going to explore some health resources and coaching practices. And through these talks, I'm going to aim to address some key questions. So, who should I talk to first? What types of support are available? Where can I find the support? When should I be looking into support? And how can I afford support? The goal is to empower arts and arts workers such as yourself to succeed and thrive today and into the future. Art and artists are essential to our community's vibrancy. So, taking care of these sort of core essential needs, health and wealth is essential for future art. You can find out more about EAR at elephantartistrelief.com. And before we start our talk, in spirit of truth and reconciliation, we at EAR and our members acknowledge the lands we meet, live, work, gather, and play on. These lands are the traditional territories of the Blackfoot Nation, which includes Siksika, Piikani, and Kainai. And we acknowledge the Tsuut'ina and Stoney Nakoda First Nations, the Métis Nation Region 3, and all the people who make their home in the Treaty 7 region. We hope you enjoy the talks and we'll see you soon. Thanks. Hi, I'm Colleen Kruger. I'm a music industry professional with over 10 years experience in production, management, and music curation. As an independent contractor through my career, I've noticed a knowledge gap in navigating available health. Today, we're going to be talking about the fantastic topic of financial planning. The pennies that we put in our savings jar and where to put them. And we've invited Melanie Cheek from Canada Life to talk about some first steps we can take as individual artists and as independent workers for saving for the now and the future, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
So, hello, Melanie.
Hi, thanks so much, Colleen, for inviting me.
My pleasure.
Yeah, I'm really honored. Yeah, so my my branding is really all about music and money, because I'm a musician as well. We have a family band called Off the Rails. And then the money aspect, so I've been a financial advisor for 10 years. But I certainly didn't start off, taking care of managing my money very well. Like in my life, we grew up on a small farm, and we weren't taught really anything about um, budgeting or managing our money or anything like that. So for the most of my beginning adult life, it was just worry and want
Mm.
most of the time, and got myself into some credit card debt, retail credit card debt after starting to buy, you know, albums at the Bay.
Yeah.
And so even into adulthood and having 3 kids and end up being a single mom, I was still under so much stress around money, till I hit a point where I was making myself really sick by worrying so much.
Mm.
And then, often what happens with a crisis is that, that's the point where you go, okay, something's got to change, right? And so, I just realized, well, I have to stop blaming my upbringing, blaming my parents, blaming whatever, for always being in financial crisis, and thought, okay, you have to educate yourself. So now my goal is to educate people before they get to a crisis point. you know you shouldn't have to go through all of that. And then so I started reading books, and a lot of it led me into mindset too. So a lot of times when I'm talking to people, like, a goal without a plan is just a wish, just like this says.
Mhm.
Um, but then, you start, well, where do you begin, with setting goals? I know I did, every year on my birthday, I would write out my goals. And then they would sit in a drawer for a year till I would go back to them again and go, just beat myself up a little bit because I hadn't achieved what I said I was going to.
Mm.
And then I started working with our mutual friend, Marlene, and we became accountability partners. And so at that point, we started to structure. Okay, so yes, we want these things, but how do we go about that and how do we structure that? And so we developed this template, and over the years realized that we really have to start with ourselves, so
Mm.
setting relationship goals. The relationship with ourselves is the most important. And how are we feeling about ourselves? And that the whole language, how we talk to ourselves, and the language again of how we talk about money
Mhm.
impacts everything. So we talked about relationships with ourselves and with our families and set goals around that. And then there was some health issues. So we developed another pillar, we call it the mind, body, spirit, because around the whole mindset of how you're approaching your life, it impacts your physical health, your mental health, and also your money, your money
Mhm.
health. I use the example of, like watch your talk, like watch how you're talking about yourself, or watch how you're talking about money. I used
Mhm.
to say all the time, I can't afford that. Um, and I hear people say it a lot.
Totally.
So you're, I can't afford that. Well, you're putting that message out there that yes, you can't afford that. So I've switched that up. I stopped saying that quite a few years ago, because I want a different message to be going out there. And so now I say, you take the power back, right? You go, no, I am choosing to spend my money on this or whatever it is. You are making a choice. You are choosing. Sure, you could afford that. You could go into debt. You could get that thing.
Mhm. Yeah,
If you want it bad enough, you can go get that thing. But is it the smart thing to do? Not
totally.
always.
I've started the
So
habit of asking if something will bring me joy. Will that bring me joy? Will
will
someone,
bring you joy.
yeah,
Yeah.
will I love it for only a moment, or, has it got some
Well,
longevity?
yeah. And there's also another phrase that works too with that. And is it a need or is it a want?
Hmm.
So, that new pair of boots. Well, sometimes it's a need, like you were talking about.
Yeah,
You know,
totally.
if you're going out to walk your dog when it's icy, you need something to keep you safe,
Hmm.
right? Something to keep you healthy. So, yeah, that's those little tools.
Practicality of what you're
Yeah,
buying should
yeah.
have a use, and it should be of quality, like buying of quality so that it lasts. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. That's how I think of it when I'm looking at something that I need to buy. And then when I
Right.
want to buy, it should just bring me joy and I should like have pleasure from it.
And have pleasure from it. Exactly. And you know what? Sometimes it's a reward. And that's part of, what works too for us is, we're setting our goals and then but have a reward out there that is, that's driving you towards achieving, right? And then make sure you do reward yourself. So like last year I rewarded myself with a trip to Europe.
It's amazing.
It happened to come at the right time and everything, but I thought, you know what? I've been working really hard.
Totally.
And
Yeah.
so I deserve this trip. And yeah, it was pretty awesome. And but when I was looking back at a folder, like I say, Marlene and I have been doing this for a long time. And I pulled out our folder of we call it life planning. And I had written down a trip to Italy probably, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago. It was there. I had forgotten that it was written down there. But
Nice.
once I was going through this, I went, you know what? It took me a while to make this happen, but I had written it down and and it did happen.
Nice.
So that was just really exciting.
Yeah. Not everything happens immediate. We have a culture of we need
Yeah.
this now, and we're
Right
not
now.
willing to like plan for it or like see that it could happen later.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of
So
our.
yeah, setting goals every year. But find an accountability partner.
Mm-hmm.
Find somebody. It doesn't have to be your life partner. It could be a friend that also say you hear somebody complaining, oh, I was going to do this, but it didn't happen. And or their self-talk is like, yeah, I just, don't seem to be getting anywhere. I find that it just really, really works because if you do have like every 3 months or once a month or whatever you decide, that meeting's coming up and you're going, okay, what did I say I was going to do? And
Nice.
sometimes we're more accountable to somebody else than we are to ourselves, right?
Much
And they
easier.
are kinder to us, right? You know what? It took me how many years to quit smoking? Well, that was a long time, but you share resources. And that's what I loved about it too, is that like you just did earlier today, we were talking about some health issues and you gave me some information that I did not know
Yes.
that I'm going to be able to give to my daughter-in-law.
Yeah.
And so when you do share, you'll find that people might have gone through the same experience that you have, or they've got some things that they can give in it, and it's a great give and take, right?
Mhm.
An
Great.
exchange. And speaking about the language around money, um the budget piece was always really difficult for me.
Mhm.
The word itself, it's like going on a diet. It's like you're denying yourself something. And
Mhm.
so that's not a great feeling around working with your money. So I've again changed my language, and I call it a spending plan now.
Nice. Yeah.
So,
A
you
little
are
more
you
flow. Things
yeah,
can
you're going to
move
be
better.
spending the money. So then now you decide, well, where are you going to be spending the money?
Mm-hmm.
And spending it on things that match your goals. I mean, and that's not to say that you're going to deny yourself that coffee, that special coffee that you like, and I'm not talking about that kind of stuff. Like, and leading into the stop the leaking, it's something that I try to do a couple of times a year, and is look at, well, where did I spend my money?
Mm-hmm.
Just go through your statement or whatever, and it was not the coffees and not the because those are nice, right? We like to share them with friends and stuff. It's not to deny yourself those things. It
Mm-hmm.
was more the subscriptions that I'd forgot I'd signed up for.
Mm.
And they just come out of your bank account automatically. And it's those auto debits that just they can add up. And I was like, okay, there's this subscription to oh, I can't remember what it was. I guess it was Amazon Prime. And I wasn't really using it. I wasn't really, but that was like whatever, $5.99. And then there was another one for some Apple product that I'd forgotten about. And then there was a bird calling app for my phone. And
Nice.
they automatically just get paid either every month or once a year. And so I just, that they're just leaking out of your bank account. You could be redirecting those
Mm.
to saving. And we were talking about that. Like, for somebody who was never in really maybe not set goals before, or they or maybe the word investing kind of, they don't think they can invest, or you need a whole lot of money to invest. You don't.
Mm-hmm.
It's as simple, to save for whatever you want, um like an emergency fund or a trip.
Mm-hmm.
You can start saving with as little as $25 a month. And for some people, that's a pack of cigarettes. For some people, like, how many cases of beer?
I know it's like one case of beer, one beer
One
at the
case,
bar, I think.
right?
And yeah,
Oh
like one
gosh.
out is probably
Oh
four
gosh. Going out for
fifty.
dinner these days, like, holy smokes. Like,
Yeah, it's a bit of the mindset of like, I like to stop the leaking. And then once you sort of look at your money objectively, you can see where you can like sort of
yeah,
put it to work in a different way.
yeah. And
Hmm.
and and be aware, I guess. It's that awareness that,
Hmm.
you know, um, you are like, for example, the dinner out the other night, I was fully aware that I was going to be spending that money, and I went, you know what? It's a birthday. It's for my daughter-in-law's birthday. I'm going to do that.
Mhm.
It's just shining a light on it and knowing where your money is, and knowing where you're spending it, and calling it a spending plan. Um, and it's 20 for I want to talk a little bit about saving. And what tools are there, right? I mean, most banks have a regular savings account, but it's not even keeping up with inflation, right?
Right. 5%.
The interest that you're getting on a regular savings account. So ask your bank, do you have a high interest savings account?
Mhm.
And find out, what the fees are. I know for Canada Life, we have a high interest savings account. There's no fees.
Nice.
And it's paying like over 4% right now. I mean, that's pretty darn good for a
Yeah, it's not
savings account. So you
I
can
know
just,
that a lot of the Canadian banks still have high interest savings, but you have to hit certain benchmarks every month to
oh,
actually get
okay.
this. So there's usually parameters.
Oh, well, Canada Life doesn't have any. So that, I mean, that's so life insurance companies also have investments. So not a lot of people know that. And we would talk about investments. We're talking about tax-free savings accounts,
Mhm.
high interest savings accounts, RRSPs. And I just want to make a little bit of a rule of thumb here for the difference between, should I invest in a tax-free savings account or should I invest in an RSP? The rule of thumb really comes down to your income. How much are you making a year? Like if your gross income is less than $60,000, then an RSP is not helping you in the best way it could. Anything
Right.
above 60,000, then yes, it's probably to your advantage to put it into an RRSP because you get the tax break on it.
Mhm.
But you have to keep in mind that when you're taking that money out, you're paying tax on it when you take that money out. So if you're in a position where your income is hovering around 50 or 60,000 a year, invest in a tax-free savings account instead and put your money in there instead. And then, I mean, it can grow. It should be.
Mhm.
If you have a tax-free savings account anywhere and it's not growing for you, then you need to talk to that financial advisor and make some changes. Make
Right.
sure you know what you're invested in. Like if it is at a bank and it's a mutual fund because they can't sell segregated funds like we have.
Okay.
Insurance companies, some have segregated funds and they come with some guarantees.
Right.
Um, but you need to have that conversation, and maybe it's just been put in a money market fund or a fund that's just kind of flatline, and inflation being what it is these days, you need to be making at least, save around 4%, 3 or 4% in a savings account, and then you knock off the inflation and then you're making maybe 2. But at
Totally.
least it's tucking it somewhere. And then
Yeah.
you've got, it can be used for an emergency fund. So instead of using a credit card when your car breaks down or you need a new piece of gear for the gig, you're take it in out of your tax-free savings account. There's no fees. There should be no fees for taking money out.
Mhm.
Um, and you can have more
There's
than
no
one.
tax on the money gained in a tax-free savings.
No,
So it's
no, and you can have more than one. So I have some clients that will have, they designate one account for their emergency fund. They designate another account for a large purchase, like if they're saving up towards something, like a house maybe.
Yeah.
And then their third one is for retirement. And that leads us into, talking about entrepreneurs. And I've been an entrepreneur for 10 years, and then I had a music business for 14 years. So I've been an entrepreneur for most of my working life. And there's no pension, there's no employer pension that's going to help me retire. So I've had to start putting some money aside for my retirement, and I call it an entrepreneur's pension plan.
Nice. Yeah, that's smart.
Well,
Necessary.
I started really late, so and I'm not unlike some other people. I didn't start until I was in, like 50 something.
I
So
think
that
it's
means I'm going to be working
literally
longer, and that's okay.
I think what you were saying earlier is just like observing your money and the way you're thinking about your money is when you start having like, oh, like wait, I should be doing these things, and like, or life events happen that sort of
Yeah.
shake you and you're like, oh my gosh, if I don't have this and this aligned, like who's got my back, you know?
Got your back. Yeah. Yeah.
Ultimately,
Well, and
it's
that can
thinking.
lead us into life insurance, like, or any of the insurances. So, the whole idea is to grow your money, but also protect it.
Mhm.
So how are you protecting your money? The, you know, the life insurance piece, and some people say, well, I don't need life insurance. Maybe they don't have children or a spouse, but maybe there's the parents that have been helping to fund them, maybe the education, and like, I know a lot of musicians have the mom and dad bank, you
Yeah.
know. I know my son certainly did, and his credit card. So um, for really inexpensive term insurance, again, if you're 30-ish, that could be like $25 a month just
Hmm.
for a life insurance policy for the what if something happens. Like, what if something happens and I leave, and the impact of my debt is going to impact my mom and dad, my brothers and sisters, my life partner. It's just going to cause a lot of grief, and it's peace of mind for you. You're out and about, on the road, like, just so many things can happen on tour, and
Hmm.
there's a lot of stories out there. There's, the story that saddened me when I first started was, a young guy and his wife came in, and they had 3 kids by that time, and he was 34,
Hmm.
and just buying the business from his dad, and that was his dream, was to buy this printing business from his dad. And they came in a few times and talked to Dave about life insurance, and then I remember that day when they said, you know what, we're just not ready.
Mm.
And then it was probably, well, 4 to 6 months later, um hockey practice, and he passed away on the ice.
Wow.
And it was an undiagnosed heart condition. He had no idea. His wife had no idea. And he was gone. Left
Yeah.
behind a $300,000 debt to his dad for the business, 3 kids. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, sure, the community fundraised. They had all sorts of things going on. But I mean, that helps in the short term. But
And then
gosh, that
the what it like ugh, the whole idea of waiting on something that
waiting. Yeah. Yeah.
I
And
have
I think
I have real anxiety around not being like have the foundation set
yeah.
for my
Yeah.
family. You
Yeah.
know this about me because I talk about it with you a lot.
Yes, you do. And I just admire you so much, Colleen, that you know, you've educated yourself around it first, right? And you ask lots of questions, and I love that.
Hmm.
Because I like educating people first. So you give them all the information, and then it's their choice of what they're going to do with it. I
Totally.
am not the type of person that wants to scare people into buying something, but
No.
there's always that with your own personal situation. Like, well, what if something happened? Then how would I feel
Hmm.
if something happened and I wasn't able to look after my own, like the critical illness piece?
Hmm.
Um, that's
Yeah,
we're pretty.
we have like another chat on insurance too. So we covered critical illness, disability, and life, like whole and term.
Right?
And they are, in my brain, part of like a family unit savings plan in terms
Yes.
of taking care of the family needs. And
Hmm.
like it's really like what I call the mourning buffer. When you need to mourn something, like you
Yes.
actually know how much time you're going to need in that process if you lose someone in your family or close to you. So like for me, it's the thought of like, wow, I'm really gonna need some time off if something happened to anybody around me. Like I would need 3 months where like I could probably be in a haze or a fog and like just be able to handle that and take care of myself, like my mental health, my physical health, and like all the things that can come with loss. So that's like really
Mhm.
where I see insurance playing a part in my life is like it gives me the peace of mind that like I'm not gonna just fall apart and not have like a safety net underneath, you
Yeah.
know? And that's how
Right.
I look at insurance. for savings, it's like, yeah, just looking at your money in a new way. It's like, do you need to go to the dollar store and spend $100 on random items that you might not need, or you want them just to like pacify something in a way, but like
Right.
could you then save that money and let it work for you for the longer term? Like
Mm-hmm.
there's
Mm-hmm.
these podcasts I listen to, Ramit, I forget his last name right now. He wrote a book called I'll Teach You to Be Rich, and he talks to people in like all spectrums of income levels. So like low income to like $1 million, don't have to
Mm.
work another day, like levels. And some of the people, even the $1 million earners, still have these great fears around money.
Yeah, anxiety. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
low earners can be saving and surpassing some of the high earners that are like misspending and misappropriating and
Mm-hmm.
where they're spending their money or how they're saving and like overspending. So it's just like a mindset in general. I think I
Right.
fully agree with you around the mindset of around money and
Mm-hmm.
looking objectively and honestly and as like independent workers, like who might not have like a steady income. It's really can be like a contract here, a contract there, or
Right.
like a commission here and a commission there. And you could be like months where you're like sort of
In
just,
between. Yeah.
so you
Yeah.
sort of need to have your like, sort of like a leapfrog of money where you have a little nest egg that you can pull from but put back
Pull
in.
from. Well, and then, that's there's, that real rule of thumb, I guess, that 10%, but it really needs to be 20%. Just if you can just tuck 20% away,
Mhm,
so that you're not relying on credit cards, and getting into that debt hole,
mhm,
that where I found myself, it's really hard to dig out. But one of the rules of thumb there, that I learned was that if you find yourself in a situation where you have gotten into debt for whatever reason, maybe you don't have that protection for, those insurances there, and you do get sick, and we're really lucky in Alberta. I mean, our pretty much most of the medical procedures are covered.
mhm,
The elective ones aren't, but most of the necessary ones are covered. But there's the cost of like the loss of income if you're not working.
mhm,
Parking is incredibly expensive.
mhm,
That just all of those other things, like someone to look after the kids, if or whatever.
mhm.
It's those expenses that can just really, really get out of control. But
Yeah.
anyway, the rule of thumb is that you're shining a light on it again, right?
Mhm,
And so I just went through this exercise with my spouse. So which one is the highest interest? So that's the one that you start chipping away at first. Like, yes, you can look at all of them and go, I'm going to put, X amount of money towards each one of them, but you really need to put the heaviest payment on the highest interest.
mhm.
Even if it's the smallest balance, get rid of that first. And then, start working on the others.
Do you have
And
your, I guess I can link some spreadsheet examples of this in the description. That's um, just so people have a reference of like how to, I think spreadsheets are helpful and should be
oh,
like a daily
oh,
for
I
anyone
love
that's doing
spreadsheets.
financial management. Create some spreadsheets and like figure out how to sort of look at those numbers because the more you look at them, the more your mindset also changes.
Right.
You don't
I love
out of sight,
spreadsheets.
out of mind kind of mentality of like, if I don't look at it, it doesn't exist
Right.
where the trouble begins. So I like a
Yeah.
practice of like, money management is just looking at it even when it's scary,
It's
even
just
if,
looking at it. Yeah.
yeah, it's not that scary. Once you start chipping away at it and you see the numbers go down, you're like, oh,
Yeah,
all right.
it's really encouraging. Yes. So yeah, between the two of us, I mean, I have some spreadsheets that I just love as well. And like I track because I've got income coming from all sorts of different places, and I have to keep track of that. And then there's some templates for doing a spending plan, and they're actually called spending plan templates that can show you Well, and then you can manipulate them. So I'm spending this much over here. Well, maybe that's a bit more. I want to shift it over to here, and you can play around with it in it and see how it's going to work for you, you know?
Yeah, I know. It's a good thing to do. I
Yeah.
don't know why money's so scary. I think it's
Well,
like a funny societal thing we've created where it's like we've
it
just
is.
been taught to look at it with
Sometimes it's come from how we grew up, you know.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
if there wasn't a lot of talk about money, like in my household, the most of the talk was that we don't have enough.
totally.
And you know, it was not a pleasant way to live. And so I think that's what was instilled in me until I started, you know, changing how I talked about money and how I thought about money, and you know, in a really, like, shining a light on it, like you say, looking at it.
And it works. It does work.
It does work. Yeah.
My partner had a negative slant on money when we first met. And I was like, treat yourself. You know, even if it
Yeah.
was something small, I was just like, treat yourself. Like you're deserving of like treating
Yes,
yourself to something that you want. And it, you know,
exactly.
even if it's just like a nice bottle of water, you know, you
Yeah.
shouldn't just like block to buying something that will like sort of bring you inspiration and like
Well, yes. And, you know, it reminds me of the book that I was given, and I'm not, it's called The Science of Getting Rich,
okay. I don't know.
by Wallace D. Wattles. And it's so that's his main point, that it's healthy to be wealthy.
Mhm.
And God didn't put us here to be poor. He provided us with so much. There's just so much out there, and really, society is structured so that in order to be, you know, like, physically healthy, we do need money, and using it as a tool to educate ourselves, keep ourselves healthy, giving, you know, that whole giving piece to others. And that's
Yeah.
why I love money, and because it it's what I can do with it, and for my family, you know, and my community. It's just opened up a whole, it opens up my heart to it, because I love to give. And if I don't have any, it's really hard to give any, you know, so
Yeah. I know
yeah.
there's so many like stories, like someone gives away their last dollar, and
Yeah,
then like a week later, there's this giant work offer in their mailbox
right,
for
right.
an amount. And you're like,
Yes.
yeah, it does happen. It does come.
Well, it's the flow, right? It's just keeping that flow, keeping the flow going.
So
Yeah.
in the arts, like especially artists that feel money blocked because, oh,
Hmm.
I haven't sold a painting in so long. I haven't
Right.
been on tour or played a show, or like the show's paying so little, or I'm not getting people out, you know, it's like well, there's so many money blocks in the arts. You know, what do they say? I'm like
Well,
totally
if
blanking
you're a
on this.
starving artist, you know, it's
Yeah,
almost like an honor badge
I
to be a.
know, but it's like the worst mentality in
It
the arts.
is.
Like I when I'm booking artists, I quite love when an artist comes back to me and then says, "Can you meet me here?" Because I've
Right.
offered them what I gathered was like a rate that was of their at their caliber, and then they're like, "Can you meet me here?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll meet you there if I can." Like I like
Yeah.
when people come to me and tell me what their worth is and what they need to
Yes.
do or what they need in money to like make that event happen.
Right.
And I appreciate it. It should be like a give and take. If the give and take is not equal, then it's really not something to do. And if the take, you know, if it's outweighed from each other, it just doesn't feel right. So then we
Mm,
got people that are disgruntled in the arts
right.
because they're not really asking their worth. They're
Mm.
sort of shy to ask what they should be paid. I
And
think
then
it's a lot of
maybe and then maybe there might be a little bit of resentment that they're not speaking about, because they feel that they're worth more, but they weren't offered more, and they're not asking for it. So yes, that ask, like, ask.
The ask should be asked always. And I like it when artists ask. And like I'll be honest if I can meet it or not. But I just appreciate people with that dialogue because it shows me that they have a healthy sense of self-worth and
Mm-hmm.
they've set their boundary with where where their line is, you know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and what they need to make something happen comfortably. Because I'd rather happy artists than disgruntled ones
Right.
participating.
Right.
Um, and that being said, there's definitely a sliding scale on where that line is for people. But yeah, I like it when artists come back to me and ask. But yeah, the starving artist like sentiment should just be eradicated from the arts industry. I think it's so unhealthy.
Right.
Artists should be looking at themselves like what am I getting out of this? Where's my boundary? Where's my line? Like you can play for free, yes, but you have to like be meeting some other criterias that are like meeting you or like giving you opportunity or like giving you value. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
money is not
Mm-hmm.
the only value system, it's just one of the value
It's
systems.
just one of it. Yes, absolutely.
Either you're learning or you're getting money or the opportunity is just like,
Making connections
yeah, like
that,
all those things need to
yeah.
sort of align to make someone feel valuable or like their work is valuable. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Money, what a little bit of a point of pain for some people, I think. And you
It
know, I'm
truly is.
working in the
Yeah.
nonprofit sector, like there's always growing pains and there's always a need for growth in money, but then there's not always the resources to meet that need. So it's like
Well,
a balancing act.
I guess it just means that, okay, I'm going to go to the next slide that does talk about it. That if the intention is, if you've set your goal
Mhm.
and, you're in, you set, maybe it is a financial goal that you've set, um, that,
Yeah, like you need
you
10
know,
grand
you
report.
can you can look at and then open it up. So you've set the goal and you just actually opened up that gate, if you will, to, okay, well, where is it going to come from? You
Hmm.
set the goal, you don't worry about how at that point, because then the opportunity, if you're open to the opportunities, then it may not be that particular venue that's going to meet, that the whole goal for you, but there's got to be other opportunities that come along to fill up that need, right?
Hmm.
And uh and i and i i, I just feel so strongly that writing it down is so powerful,
Hmm.
that that written word and something that you can and don't hide it away, keep it out where you're seeing it. And I've got a 6-month goal sheet that I have 3 different goals. One is definitely a revenue goal. And then I've got a music goal, right? I do want to record some of my own songs. And so setting that up and what are the steps that are going to take. And I don't know who's going to be around to help me with it, but just in the last couple of weeks, I have met, some people that could be part of the band, right? So it's just the action of writing it down, just makes it stronger.
Totally.
I
Yeah.
do have, like I say, that's on here. I have you've got some spreadsheets that you can share
Yeah, I
with.
will.
Yeah. And I do have this, well, the fine tune your life goals. It's just a one sheet. And it's like a guide anyway, as well to what are your goals in your relationships with yourself? What are your goals in your mind and your body and spirit? And then what are your money goals and, and the rewards?
Hmm.
And what are your wins? Like, it's always acknowledging your wins too. And being grateful for what you do have. I think that's another big piece,
Hmm.
is that gratitude piece. Um, I
Definitely.
mean, you're maybe looking at where you want to go and there's a gap there, but it's always acknowledging the win and acknowledging, yeah, I made that step. I got that small step. That's a small step, but it's a step, right?
Hmm. Totally. And you sort of get rid of the imposter syndrome through recognizing your own growth. There's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of imposter syndrome in the arts world, as we know.
Oh gosh, everywhere.
Like this there's so many dialogues like, oh, the starving artist, and oh, you can't be an artist. Like that's not as silly. That's silly. You can't have that as a career.
Right, right.
But it's like
I mean,
bad,
I heard that a lot.
bad dialogue to be like running through your mind on repeat because
Well, yeah, and that, but those are old tapes that, I heard as well, growing up, and because that was my number one thing I wanted to do was to sing. But it's just not, my dad as well, took voice lessons in Banff, had an amazing voice, but his father wouldn't lend him any money to continue on with his schooling there,
mhm,
but gave him money to buy a farm. So,
yeah, it's like
so
whatever
he
they
so he
value.
became a farmer, but he was not a happy farmer.
Okay,
So,
fair. Yeah, it
you know,
happens. It's
yeah,
sad.
it's really it's insidious. That the beliefs that you're ingrained in, usually from your childhood or from somewhere, it you want to get rid of them, but the trick is that you have to replace them with something else, right? So you have to overwrite them. So
Mhm.
anytime, and they're going to pop up. They're there, right? They're just this tape running back in your memory bank, and it just pops up. So when it pops up, you go, oh, noticing that it's popping up and going, okay, I'm going to overwrite that with something, and be prepared with, you could have a list of a few sentences, that nope, anytime that thought comes into my mind, I'm going to say this out loud. You got to rewrite,
That is awesome.
overwrite.
Yeah, that's literally what you have to do. It's very awkward, but
Yeah, it
it's really
is. It
necessary.
feels really weird.
Yeah, because anything that's not ingrained in our mind, anything that goes against that, even if it's a positive like change, it feels awkward.
Hmm.
Part of the change. It just is all awkward. It's like,
Yeah, yeah,
but it does work over time. Like it does
it does for sure.
sort of
So,
weird. But yeah, I like that this is like a holistic financial planning dialogue where it's not like,
yeah,
oh, here's the spreadsheets and here's all the accounts and this is the step-by-step process of what you have to do to save money. It's like actually a first step is to change your mindset about money.
yeah,
And then once you actually observe your money, you'll actually just start wanting to learn more about how you can move your money. Like
yeah.
I
Where are the tools, right? So then, yeah, then you'll land on what tools are going to work for you.
mhm. And a lot of
Right?
the like savings, so TFSA
Yeah.
and the RRSPs, a lot of people might not have those open as entrepreneurs or like independent workers. And I think there's some probable blocks around like, oh, I probably need a lot of money to invest. But
Yeah, and you don't. Yeah,
open
it's like $25 a month. And so I offer free consultation, Colleen, to anybody, and I love having conversations. And one thing I forgot to mention that's really new, if we have time, um, something that's really new that was announced last year is the first home savings account. And it's a blend of a tax-free savings account that grows tax-free and you can take it out tax-free, and an RRSP. So any money you put in there, you do get a tax credit for.
I think they
So
created it because you could utilize the RSP as that. Like you could take money out of your RSP tax free if you were buying a home. So I think a lot of people are doing that.
that's different. That's a loan.
Oh, okay. And you have to
That's
pay it back. So
You have
you
to
can
pay it
still,
back. That's the first home. Yeah, that's the first home savings account. But you have to pay tax on it. Like you can borrow it to buy a house, but if you don't pay it all back in 15 years, you're paying tax on it.
okay, gotcha.
So it's a little different. This
Okay.
is a brand new
So,
one that was announced by the government in spring 2023.
mhm. Yeah, it's a
So,
nice option for people that haven't purchased a home yet.
right. Or if they haven't owned a home in the last 4 years, they can qualify to open one of those too.
Nice.
Yeah.
As so if you're a 9 to 5er and an artist, I think it is beneficial to have those kind of accounts open
Oh,
because
definitely.
tax bracket is so it's different when you have two income streams coming through.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
probably beneficial to sort of understand like your independent sole proprietor income is combined with your 9 to 5, and that
Yeah,
by managing and offsetting your taxes between the two,
yeah,
having these accounts open and utilizing them as you need is beneficial.
exactly. Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
Yeah. And small amounts, like with someone like yourself, you can invest small amounts at a time.
Mhm. Yeah.
And,
Yeah, $25 a month. I mean, it's just you're just investing in like one fund at that time, but then once you grow it up
Mhm.
to like, 500, or if you're doing $25 a month, you can add, or you can stop it at any time, you can pause it at any time, you can increase it or throw lump sums in there. There's so much flexibility. It's
Mhm.
not rigid. And
Right.
that's a great thing, that so people don't need to be afraid that if they put some money in there, they can't get it back. You can definitely get it back. Like within 2 days, it's in
Right.
your bank account, right? So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, there's no risk really. As long as you make sure that you're working with your financial advisor, though, that's the risk. If you're not watching it, if
Yes.
you're not having that conversation, then it could be doing, nothing or worse, so you just find
Yeah.
somebody to work with that you like and trust.
And there's lots of ways to have a financial planner, right? Like you can pay a flat fee, or you can pay them a
Yeah.
percentage, or you can do different like structures with
Mhm.
somebody.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
yeah,
talk regularly, me and you.
yeah, yeah. No,
Someone in someone in
mine,
this line of work with yourself over time, you just like as you're learning, you can go to these people and ask them 1,001 questions,
my
and
questions.
they
Yeah,
may know or not know, and you can grow together,
yeah.
So I will, yeah. Did you have another slide?
Last one, just with if anybody wants to reach out, because I just love having conversations and I love helping people. And if I can help educate somebody and encouraging them, I just love to do that. So I don't mind, people texting me and saying, hey, do you have an hour? Where and I can just answer whatever questions they might have and lead them in a direction that's going to help them out.
Yeah, and I would say you're not pushy at all.
No,
You're
no,
not sales, like let's close this in the first
yeah,
call. You're like you're yeah, very holistic and very much like create a family with the people that you
yeah.
this with, and I've appreciated that definitely. Like you've helped me a lot and taught
Thank
me so
you.
much. So I mean, we'll keep talking.
Well, we will, yes, because I learned something from someone. Anytime I talk to someone else, I'm learning something too. So it's always a two-way street, you know.
Perfect. I
So I
like
love
it.
that. Yeah, awesome.
Um, Beauty. Well, thank you
Thank
so much
you.
for chatting financial planning.
Oh,
Um,
you're welcome. Thanks for the invitation.